All right. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Ya Kundendu Tusharahara Dhavala Ya Shubhravastravrita Ya Veena Varadanda Manditakara Ya Shveta Padmasana या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः अज्ञानान्धस्य लोकस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै पाणिनये नमः Hari Om to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I realize that for some of you, the time has changed. So if you are now on daylight savings time, that means that if you're in America, that means that it's for people in the Midwest and East Coast, it's way too late for you at night. So I completely understand if you want to switch to viewing this on relay. And for others, people who are on the West Coast or something, I think it's still okay for you. But for those of you who cannot view it due to it being too late, don't worry, you can switch it to any other time as long as it's convenient to you. And please also remember that the videos are recorded and put up on YouTube and sent out in the email every week. They're also up in your announcements tab every week, and they also go up on the discussion forum every week. And don't forget to check the discussion forum. We've had some quite interesting discussions happen there since in between each class. So always check on the discussion forum. Also, don't forget to always check on the Google Drive, where we have all of our notes, our homework, the answers from previous week's homeworks, like that. Everything is put up on the Google Drive. And that's where you get all the exercises so that you can actually practice what it is that you learn. So keep checking those things. All right, so let's get started. My pranams to my Sanskrit guru, Professor Pushpa Dikshit ji, who lives in Bilaspur. She's widely recognized as one of the greatest Sanskrit grammarians in the world. But for many reasons, she's always, she hasn't been able to reach the English-speaking public because she doesn't speak English. And the sad part is that people who speak English don't necessarily recognize who she is or her greatness because they are stuck in their language bubble. So for those people who are speaking English, it's my job and it's now all of your job to start teaching those people who speak English this method of learning Sanskrit grammar, which is actually approachable, which is actually something that people can understand. It's logical, and it makes Sanskrit grammar very easy and fun also. So she lives in Bilaspur. She's now in her 70s. But for her to be a woman, which is yet another factor that has been a roadblock, a difficulty on her journey, for her to be a woman who grew up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, in very traditional India, she has gone through, unspeakable difficulties to get where she got, and to actually, she was married when she was 13, and she grew up. The way in which she describes it is that, I was stuck in the chulha, I was stuck in the in the stove, cooking for the family since I was 13 years old. And despite that, she studied. She got her master's degree. Somehow she even had kids. She was able to take care of her kids. She was able to take care of a family. She was able to, she still cooks every day. And then despite all that, she finished her PhD. She discovered this new method of studying Sanskrit grammar out of nothing. I mean, she had her teachers, but they were also teaching through the same old trodden methods. And for her to come up with this new method, have this vision of Panini's system and method, and then for her to write, countless books about it. She's written some 50 books now. And for her to present it to the world, for it to actually be recognized, for her to do all of that despite all of the domestic constraints, the linguistic constraints, is really unfathomable. I mean, she's gone through unspeakable difficulties, and yet, she came out on top. So to this very strong woman, whom everybody affectionately calls Mataji, I give my endless namaskars, my endless pranams, and my prostrations to her, because it's only because of her that I am who I am today. She made me who I am. So it's always good, all of the time, as much as you possibly can, to remember all of the gurus who have been there in your life, all of the people who have taught you anything, because that's the only way you constantly remember that you don't know anything. And it keeps you in your place. You are everything because of your guru, and yet at the same time, there's always that person who has taught you everything you know, but maybe not necessarily everything that they know. So there's someone who's always ahead, which keeps you on the ground. It keeps you stable. It keeps you humble. So remembering the guru it serves many purposes. So with that, I remember my guru, and we can begin. So until now, we have finally entered into the study of Sanskrit grammar, which we must always remember is not just for the purpose of studying Sanskrit grammar. It is not just for the purpose of even coming to know a language, but it is for the purpose of transforming your life through the study. It's for the purpose of immersing yourself in a new worldview, of immersing yourself in a way of thinking that is totally different from your own, and changing your life, changing your surroundings, changing your world. So always keeping this in mind, we proceed on our path. So we entered into the Shastra, we entered into the study of Panini's brilliant and vast mind by seeing our first sutra, which was Bhuvadayo Dhatavaha, which means that all of those little sets of sounds, which are in the list, whose first element is Bhu, which includes many, 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 many different elements, are all called Dhatu. This is the sutra which names the Dhatu. So we have this sound available to us. It's floating around in the sky, and we hear it, Bhu, we hear it, Ni, Pat, Lik, and so on. And we name it. We say this sound, because it is there in that list which begins with Bhu, also provided to us by Panini in his Dhatu Patha, which I will be uploading today on our Google Drive, so be sure to check that out, is known as Dhatu. So now we've named it as a Dhatu. We learned one other sutra to name Dhatus also, because there are those Dhatus that go beyond just what Panini has taught, has given us directly in his Dhatu Patha, which are made by us by combining one of those Dhatus with some other Pratyaya, with some other suffix, and creating a new Dhatu. And so the sutra to name those is Sanadyanta Dhatavaha. Sanadyanta Dhatavaha. So with these two sutras, we have named every single Dhatu that is out there, ever in the universe. two sutras for naming the dhatus. Now that the dhatus are named, immediately we start one new task. Now that they're named, it's like a computer program. As soon as you name something, immediately that name brings it into a particular set of operations which start happening. So the way Panini works is he names something and he says, because I have named it this thing, you have to now do these various operations on this thing. So the first operation that we perform on our dhatus is known as it sanya. It sanya. It sanya means naming something as it. Putting the marker or the flag called it onto certain parts of this dhatu. And we started to see the sutras that perform this operation. We saw the first two sutras that perform this operation. The first sutra was Upadeshe Janunasika It. Upadeshe Janunasika It. So Srijit ji, if you can share my screen, then I can describe what's going on here. Okay, perfect. So here we see the top sutra there, which is numbered as number 2. It's number 2 because this is the second sutra in the third pada. Pada means quarter. In the third quarter of the first chapter or the first adhyaya of the Ashtadhyayi. So that's why it's numbered as number 2. And if you remember, then if you have that book in front of you, the Ashtadhyayi book, the brown colored book, if you have in front of you, it's on page 41. And if you're looking at the blue book, which I had uploaded on the Google Drive, which is like it's one version earlier, but it has all the same stuff of the same book. It is page 59 on the actual PDF, page 59 of the PDF, and page 9 of the book in the PDF. So if you're actually looking at the book page numbers in the PDF, it's page 9. And if you're looking at the number of pages of the PDF itself, it's page 59 and page 41 in that brown book. So if you're looking at these books, then you can open it up there and you'll see that there's the first sutra before this was actually Bhuvadayo Dhatavaha, which we've already seen. So it says, now that you've named them as dhatus, now we move forward into number 2, which is Upadeshe Janunasika It. So now we start naming things as it. Just a second here. This thing keeps on buzzing. I have to turn it off. I don't know why suddenly everybody remembers you when you're not available. All right. You know when you go into a lecture or something and they say, please turn off your phones. And then you turn off your phone. And it's in that 1 hour span that the whole world remembers that you exist. And then when you turn on your phone again, you're like, oh my God, I have 50 missed calls, 20 new messages, this, that. So it's usually good to keep your phone off during lecture type things so that you don't get bothered by those things. All right, so our first sutra was Upadeshe Janunasika It. And if you remember, we had broken this down into its little words, the little parts of the sutra, which is Upadeshe, Upadeshe. Upadeshe means in the Upadesha. And the word Upadesha means the teaching or the direct stuff that was said by Panini in his texts. So Upadesha means the actual teaching, what is written by Panini, and Upadeshe means in that teaching, in that written stuff by Panini, which is for us in our case, the Dhatu Patha and the Ashtadhyayi. Anywhere in the Dhatu Patha or the Ashtadhyayi, if you find a vowel, ach, which is anunasika, which means nasalized. So instead of a, you'll find a. Instead of e, you'll find e. Maybe can you just open the door there? I think Niranjana Amma may be here. Instead of U, you find U. So if you find a vowel which is nasalized anywhere in the Ashtadhyayi or in the Dhatu Patha, then that nasalized vowel gets the name it. It gets this marker, this flag which comes on it, and it's called it. So I think we've got some examples here. So check out patl. That l is a vowel, and it is nasalized. We know it's nasalized because it's got that chandra bindu on top. That thing which is a dot with a little crescent underneath it is called as chandra bindu. So that chandra bindu indicates the nasalization of the vowel. If it's on top of that vowel, then the vowel is nasalized. So instead of lr, it's pronounced as lr through your nose. So that vowel, because we see in the original dhatu which was born, patl, that lr is nasalized. And when we split it up into its anupurvi, which you see here, pa, a, t, lr, then that lr at the end gets the it marker. So you can see it's like a little flag that's attached to the lr. Now we have flagged it. We'll see what to do with it later today. All right, and then we go back to our sutras, and we saw the second sutra last time, which was halantyam, halantyam. This means that the ending, antyam, the ending hal means consonant. So the ending consonant. And that's the end of the sutra. So you might be wondering, wait, what does this mean? What is this supposed to signify? Well, as we saw last time, Panini's style is like this. The way in which he writes, the sutra style is like this. All sutra literature works like this. When you write a sutra, that sutra is supposed to be a complete sentence. It's one sentence which gives you some instruction or some operation, right? It's one sentence. And then in the next sentence, in the next sutra, if you have any words that are borrowed from the previous sutra, then you don't need to say them again. You don't need to say them one more time. You just assume that they are there, part of the sutra. So the way so Panini really is the perfection of the sutra style. Panini's grammar, this system, this Ashtadhyayi, has really perfected the sutra style. So you will see the most beautiful sutras and the borrowing from previous sutras that you have ever seen. The most complex and the most intricate way of borrowing sutras that you would ever have seen. So in this case, the words which are borrowed from the previous sutra are upadeshe. Can you turn off this thing or lower it so that, yes, thank you. Okay, so the words which are borrowed are upadeshe and it. So you say upadeshe, in the upadesha, in the teaching, in the actual stuff written by Panini, if you find a hal, a consonant, which is antyam, at the end of that thing that he has written, then it gets the it marker as well. That's what it borrows. Now this borrowing, the borrowing from a previous sutra in order to complete the sentence of the next sutra. Remember, we saw halantyam and we're like, wait, this is so incomplete, doesn't mean anything. In order to complete that sentence, we have to borrow two words from the previous sutra, upadeshe and it. And so that borrowing is known as anuvritti. Anuvritti. This word anuvritti literally means following existence. So it follows. So the anuvritti means these words whose existence follows into the next sutra. That's called anuvritti. So the way we put it is that halantyam, that sutra, takes the anuvritti of, that's how we put it. It takes the anuvritti of, or takes the anuvritti from upadeshe and it. Okay, that much should be now totally clear. So upadeshe hal antyam it. In the upadesha, if you find a consonant at the end, then that also gets the it marker. So let's see the examples again to make it totally clear. So the next example we see is rniya, rniya. So that nya at the end is a consonant. And so because it comes at the end of this upadesha, something that Panini wrote in his Dhatu Patha, it also gets the it marker. So that it marker is what is the important thing, and it comes on this antyam hal, on this ending consonant. Now let's take a look at the next example. Patha. Again, we can apply that same principle from the first sutra, Upadeshe Janunasika it, and you get patha, and that at the end becomes it. Now remember, let's go back to our sutras, and let me show you something very important. And I'll circle it in a different color. Let's make it really bright green. This word here, antyam, antyam, that word there, it means ending. During the week, many of you had questions about it sanya, because I had assigned some homework, and those of you who were doing it had these questions that what do we do with the vowels that are nasalized that come in the middle of a word, that come in the middle of the upadesha? I thought that they had to be ending vowels. This word antyam is the only thing that indicates ending. And look where it comes. It comes in the second sutra, not in the first sutra. So the first sutra, which deals with the vowels which are nasalized, has nothing to do with antyam. It has nothing to do with ending. Therefore, any vowel which is nasalized anywhere in the upadesha gets the it marker. So let me write an example for you. Olasji, olasji. Okay. This word has, so let's write out the anupurvi. O, L, A, S, J, E, and it has this little thing. Olasji. So you can see that two letters here, two vowels, have that anunasika. Two of them are nasalized. So in this case, both of them get that it marker. Both of them get it. All right. Some others also had this question that once we give that E the it marker and that O the it marker, so what's the point of this? What are we doing? Like if you have O plus G is given to us by Panini, and what we actually want is lasj. Remember, we're cleaning up the dhatus. This process, the cleaning up the dhatus process had started. So if we're going to clean this up, and these things will eventually be removed, which I'll show you how later, and we just want to have lasj, or in the previous case, we just want to have pat, or ni, or pat, then why didn't Panini just give us pat? Why didn't he just give us pat, lasj? Why does he have to have all these other markers going on? So the answer to this question is that during the processing of making this into a word we can use in speech, the markers that we had removed previously, which are these things that we are marking now, are our direction markers when we have to make decisions later on. Later on, we'll come to a decision that says, if you had marked the O as a it sanya, then do this. So these are actually our steering wheel. These are the things that get us to our destination, even though we don't see them in the end. So that is the purpose of putting these things there. So like the example I give is like a rocket ship. Many of you would be familiar with what rocket ships look like. I hope everybody is familiar with what a rocket ship looks like. If not, look it up on Google right now. Rocket ships are pretty cool. They go into space. When they go into space, the astronauts sit in one place. They sit in this tiny pod at the top of the giant rocket. All right? The rocket is this huge thing, and there's a little triangular piece at the top of the rocket ship, right? Everybody is getting what I'm talking about? And in that, there's a little window, okay? And if you look in that window, you'll see these three little dudes sitting in there who are going up into space, our astronauts. Or sometimes you see a monkey or a dog or whatever they're sending into space. Now, the purpose is to get that little person into space. And when they go up, then you see that as the rocket ship goes up, the big part at the bottom is a fuel tanker, right? And so the fuel starts going down as it's going up. And once it's out of fuel, then the rocket ship detaches that thing and it floats into space, or it comes and falls back down on the earth. And now you have this little piece that's going up, the secondary fuel tank. Then that takes you into outer space, and then that thing also detaches and goes away. And now you have this tiny pod with the little people, which is the pod that actually goes and lands on the moon, right? And that same pod comes back, and it's the pod that comes and lands back on the earth. So if you've seen these movies like Apollo 11 or whatever, in the end, you see that tiny pod comes down, it crashes in the water with these three little parachutes, and then those three astronauts come out, and there's awesome music playing in the background. The purpose was to get those three astronauts onto the moon and back. So what was the point of that whole big tanker, that huge thing that took them there? Even because it got removed in the end, and we just had that tiny pod which actually took them there and came back. So why did we need the big section of the rocket ship? And the answer is that section takes you so far. It gets you somewhere. And then the next section gets you somewhere. And then the next section gets you somewhere. And in the end, you're left with only the one man who takes a step on the moon and says, a small step for man, but a giant leap for mankind. Okay, so that one guy, that's all we want to get there. Similarly, all we want to reach the end is pat. That's the only thing we want. That pat has to come and reach our final sentence. But you have all these different markers on it as these little fuel things which push you in some direction, and then they fall off on their own. They fall off. And then finally you reach your destination. So that's what we are doing right now. We're preparing the huge rocket ship. We're understanding which parts are going to fall off when we reach our final destination. There's a lot of calculations involved, you got to do a lot of mathematics before you get those people on the moon. And when they sent the first rocket ship into space and they put those people on the moon, then the amount of technology they used, the amount of programming code and actual tech that was used to get those people up there is less than what you have in your pocket right now, that little cell phone. That little cell phone is more technology, it's more advanced than that rocket ship which went to the moon when when we were first sending people to the moon in 1969 when they first went there. So it's amazing how far we've come. So let's see how far we get with the Panini's Vyakarana. All right, let's come back to our sutras. Now we have seen the first two sutras in action. We've seen what they do. They put that little it marker on the end. Anybody confused here for now? No? Okay, great. At the end, we'll do some questions. I think we should have time today. Now we come to our next sutra. Na vibhaktau tusmaha. Na vibhaktau tusmaha. This is our next sutra. Again, here we have to take the anuvritti from previous sutras. So which anuvrittis do we take? Okay. So which anuvrittis do we take? We take again the anuvritti from Upadeshe, all the way from the first sutra. That Upadeshe is going to continue all the way down to the end of It Sanya. We take the anuvritti of It, which is the point of this whole thing. Of course, that It is going to come all the way down as well with us. We take the anuvritti of Hal, because we're talking about an ending Hal still. And we take the anuvritti of Antyam. So this entire previous sutra, number 3, is coming as anuvritti for the next sutra. So the whole thing is taken. This is the genius of Panini. This is a brilliance. He's like, I can just use this whole thing in the next sutra. And all I have to say is Navibhaktau tu smaha. And everyone's like, what does that mean? He's like, wait, look at the previous sutras. Everything is coming from there. So let's make so first let me tell you what it means. Then we'll construct the full sentence out of this. And you'll see just how, with these tiny little words, how you can make these huge, huge sutra sentences. Na vibhaktau tu smaha means, na, this is not the case. Na, the word na in Sanskrit means the same thing as na in other languages and no in English, not. Okay, so this is not the case. And I'll tell you what is not the case in a second. This is not the case. Vibhaktau. Vibhaktau means in the vibhakti. And so the question might be, well, what is a vibhakti? A vibhakti is any suffix, any ending pratyaya that attaches to a dhatu to form one particular tense or mood. Those 18 different pratyayas that we saw before, or any one of the 21 declension suffixes for nouns. That means your Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha, Ramam, Ramau, all these aha, au, aha, au, whatever, those are called vibhaktis also. Those are also suffixes or pratyayas. So we have 2 types of pratyayas. The ones that attach to dhatus in order to make a verbal form, like patati, which means he or she or it falls, or pathati, he or she or it reads or studies. That ti that's there, that ti is the vibhakti, okay? And similarly with the nouns, Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha, that aha, au, whatever that is, those are also called as vibhaktis. Those ending suffixes are also called as vibhaktis. So remember that the it sanya rules apply also to pratyayas as much as they do to dhatus. Because all it says is upadeshe, which means in anything that Panini wrote. It doesn't say in a dhatu or in a pratyaya or in this word or that word. No, anywhere, anything that Panini has said, if that thing is a vibhakti, which means the suffix that attaches to make verbal or nominal forms, then this is not the case. What is not the case? Hal antyam. The ending hal will not get the it sanya if the ending hal is tu. Tu means ta, tha, da, dha, na. Remember that? Tu means ta, tha, da, dha, na, sa, or ma. That's what tusmaha means. Tusmaha means if it is tu, which is ta, tha, da, dha, na, sa, or ma, if it's any of these letters, and they come at the end, if they're the ending consonants of a vibhakti, which is a particular pratyaya, that is a suffix that makes a verbal form or a noun form, then they do not get the it sanya. So once we see examples, it should become pretty clear. Okay, here's the breakup of the words of this sutra. Na vibhaktau tu smaha tu sama. Tu smaha is just a compound word that is the is the plural that says tu, sa, and ma. Na means not. Vibhaktau, when part of a vibhakti. Tu means tatha, dadha, na. Sa means sa, ma means ma. Okay? We know what the sutra means, but how does it apply? What are the applications? So here's some examples. Here are some suffixes. Tat, tas, and tam. These are some suffixes, okay? Which make verbal forms. So like, for example, you have patha, which we already saw before. So you attach these to patha and you get pathatat, pathatas, pathatam, okay? So we're getting these suffixes at the end of patha to indicate different verbal forms, different things. But that ending ta, even though it's the ending there in the first one, in the first example, let me circle it. Here, this ending, oh. Don't freeze, don't freeze. Can you stop the, wait. Okay, it worked. So this ending ta here, even though it is the ending hal, it is the ending consonant of this upadesha, which is given to us by Panini. So by the previous sutra, it should technically get the it marker. But because of the following sutra, which says na vibhaktau tu smaha, because this is part of the vibhakti, which means that ending suffix for a verbal form or a nominal form, na. Na, it does not have, that halantyam sutra does not apply. It does not actually give it the it marker, so which means it will remain all the way to the end. It doesn't have to be cut off later. So the form you get in the end is pathatat instead of something else. Pathatat is what you get. Okay, similarly with tas. Let's take a look here. This tas here, that's sa. It's an ending hal, it's an ending consonant. It should get the it marker because of halantyam, but due to navibhaktau tu smaha, it does not get the it marker. And finally, similarly with tam, that ma at the end, it's a ma, because of navibhaktau tu smaha, it does not get the it marker. I hope that's pretty clear now. So we saw this, our third sutra. Now that we've seen our third sutra, I should explain something to you about sutras in general. Panini's style, the way in which he teaches, the way in which he presents his material is like this. He says, his whole sutra presentation rests on a particular style. It rests on one principle. And that principle is what is known as utsarga apavada. Utsarga apavada. The word utsarga means the general principle, the general rule, something that happens to everybody. And apavada means the exception, something that doesn't happen for some people. So suppose you have a bunch of people in a room, okay? And 4 of them are wearing yellow color. Okay, and you have 50 people in the room and 4 are wearing yellow. So you say, give everybody the finest sweets in the world, but don't give it to the 4 yellow people. Okay, don't give it to the people wearing yellow. So I have said one statement, which is give the sweets to everybody. That's the general rule. The person hears and he says, I have to give sweets to everybody, starts handing out the sweets. And then when he gets to the yellow person, the next instruction comes. He says, but not to people wearing yellow, not to people wearing the yellow shirts. So then he says, okay, I won't give it to the yellow shirt. So he stops himself. And then he moves to the next person. Then he starts asking the question, are you wearing a yellow shirt? And the person says, no. Okay, here you go. Are you wearing a yellow shirt? Here you go. Are you really wearing a yellow shirt? And the person wearing the yellow shirt says, yes. Can't you see? He says, okay, then you cannot have a sweet. Then he goes to the next person who's wearing a yellow shirt and says, are you wearing a yellow shirt? And the person says, no. And he's like waiting, I want the sweet. And he says, no, I can see you're wearing a yellow shirt. No sweet for you. And he moves on. So like that is called utsarga, the general rule. Halantyam, applies to all ending consonants. And then na vibhaktau tusmaha. Whoa, 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 whoa. But for the ending consonants that are part of a vibhakti, don't do this. Do not do halantyam. Okay? That much is clear. I hope that is now sufficiently clear. Now we move to our next sutra. Okay, I'll just show it to you here first. Adir yetu davaha. Now this is a very interesting one to pronounce. Adir yetu davaha. As you say it 4 or 5 times, it'll become more and more clear. And actually, one thing I forgot to do that we do normally traditionally is that the teacher will say one sutra and everybody will repeat. So let's go back to number 4. I'll say it once, you repeat it once, then we'll move on. So I'll say it once. Na vibhaktau tusmaha. And now you all say it.
Na vibhaktau tusmaha.
Let's try again. Na vibhaktau tusmaha.
Na vibhaktau tusmaha.
Okay, very good. So we already explained what that one means. Now let's move to the next sutra. I will say it, then you say it. Okay? Adir nyitu davaha. Oh, if it's a little difficult, then let's try it like this. Adir nyitu davaha. Adir nyitu davaha. Great. Adir nyitu davaha. Excellent. This sutra, let's break it up. Let me take us to our breaking it up page. This sutra says Adihi. Adihi means at the beginning. Now remember, we said Antyam previously, that had to do with the end. Now the anuvritti of the word Antyam stops here. And we come to a new word which says Adihi. Adihi means in the beginning. So at the beginning of an Upadesha, remember our Upadeshe is coming. The Upadeshe Anuvritti is coming from the first sutra. In the Upadesha, anywhere, whatever Panini has given us in these dhatus, if you have this sound yi, or the sound tu, or the sound do, then these sounds also get the it marker. They also get the it marker. Yi, tu, and do in a dhatu get the it marker, which means they will eventually be removed. So let's see a couple of examples. Adir nyitu davaha. Okay, this iPad has frozen. Can you stop the screen share real quick so that I can, once the screen share stops, then the iPad starts working again somehow. Okay, it's not working actually. Hold on. Hello. Okay, so the iPad seems to have frozen. Anyway, that's okay. I will just give you some examples by orally. Yes, this has to do with actual like sounds, words that come at the beginning of a dhatu. To, do, or yi. Please come if you want. No, okay. All right. So, okay, let me just give this to Srijit ji for a sec. Can you just see if it works? That app called Doceri is the one that you want to be working. Okay, so let's think of an example. The example will be Yishvida. Okay, Yishvida. So, if when you write it, then it looks like this. It is a nya, that letter which we saw. It's yi, which we already just saw on the screen, yi. And then Sha, the sha that's at the beginning of Shiva, the S with the little accent on top, and then V. So Nyishv, and then I, Nyishvi, and then the ta, tha, da, that one, and then A, long A with that Chandra Bindu on top. Okay, Yishvida, like that. Yes, that looks correct. And that A has the Chandra Bindu on top. So that means it's a nasalized A sound. So here we see at the beginning of that letter, at the beginning of this dhatu, this is a dhatu, okay, which comes in Panini's dhatu patha. So we have named it as dhatu because of bhuvadayo dhatavaha. At the beginning of this thing, we see the word ni. And so that ni gets the it marker because of adir nitu davaha. And at the end, we see that a with the chandra bindu, that a also gets the it marker because it is because of upadeshe janunasika it. So because of these two rules, we have ni and a, which will get the it marker. And so that whole thing, ni, that whole thing gets the it marker. Not just one of those letters, but both of those letters together get the it marker. Or we take another example. Tu o shvi. Can I see that back? Is it working now? Those white papers. Oh, it worked. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good. Now I can actually show you. Excellent. Okay. All right. Is it up? Okay, excellent. Okay, so here we had Adir Nitu Davaha. So let's get back to our example here. Okay. So our first example was Yishvida. Or if that is a little bit difficult to read, then you can always do it like this also. Both are okay. Now here we see, as I already explained, this yi, that whole thing there, that whole thing is going to get this it marker. And of course, this a will also get the it marker. Okay? Now we see our next example. Tuoshvi. Tuoshvi. Oops, sorry. My mistake. Actually, this that is not there. There we go. Tuoshvi. So this two, that whole two is going to get the it marker. Okay. And this O letter is also going to get the it marker because of Upadeshe Jananasika it. And the two is going to get the it marker because of Adir Nitu Davaha. And we see our final example. Dukrin. Some people may have studied some Vedanta, especially if you're part of the Chinmaya International Foundation webinars and things, or in your Chinmaya Mission Center if you are there, you may have studied this text called Bhaja Govindam. In Bhaja Govindam, there's one very famous line that says, Nahi nahi rakshati dukring karane. That dukri is this dhatu right here, dukri. Everybody wonders, what is dukri? So let's see. So we have this do. Because of the sutra adir yitu davaha, that do gets the it marker. And because of halantyam, this nya gets the it marker. All right. So now we have seen some examples. Pretty clear. It's not actually very difficult at all. It sangya is very easy, but it takes some time to learn because it's always our first introduction into sutra operations. So it takes some time to really figure out how all these things go together. So we've seen what these sutras can do. So now we've seen 4 sutras. So let's really quickly go through the next 3. I don't think they need much explanation. Here we've got shah pratyayasya. Shah pratyayasya says that for the letter sha, or rather that letter sha, this one, that letter sha, which is at the beginning, adihi. We're taking adihi from the previous sutra. The letter sha, which is at the adihi. And now we have this word pratyayasya. Pratyayasya means now we are no longer working with dhatus and pratyayas. We are working only with pratyayas here. For any pratyaya that has sha in the beginning, that sha also gets the it sanya. That sha gets the it marker. Okay? Not too hard to understand, to be honest. So that sha will get the it marker. Okay. And then the next sutra, chutu. Here also we are taking the anuvritti of adihi from sutra number 5. We're taking the anuvritti now of pratyayasya from sutra number 6 here. And so let's make the long sentence with this, okay? Just for fun, just so you can see what the whole sentence looks like. We take the anuvritti of, let me circle all the words that we get the anuvritti from, okay? This will be fun. We're taking upadeshe from here. We're taking it from here. We're taking adihi from here. We're taking pratyayasya from here. So, upadeshe, pratyayasya, adihi, chutu, it. This is the whole sentence. One tiny sutra. This is the smallest sutra out of all of these. It's the smallest sutra, just chutu. Okay, very fun sutra, very exciting and excited sutra. Chutu. This sutra gets all of these words from previous sutras in order to make a complete sentence. And the sentence we get is this giant thing, which is upadeshe pratyayasya adihi chutu it. Huge sentence. What does it mean? Chutu means chu, and chu, you remember, means cha, cha, ja, jha, nya, and tu, which you remember means ta, tha, da, dha, na. And this tu is different from the tu in that previous sutra, adir yetu davaha. That tu is just the word tu, or the set of sound tu. But this tu means those set of letters tu. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. At the beginning of the upadesha, if you find, and not just any upadesha, but of the pratyaya, only of a pratyaya, if you find cha, cha, ja, jha, nya, or you find ta, tha, da, dha, na, then all of those things all get the it sanya. That's what it means. They get the it sanya, this it marker. Yeah. Remember, it is coming all the way down through. And then Now, when you do the homework, all this stuff will become totally clear. And I'll give you several examples in the notes. So I don't need to go through those right now particularly, but it's pretty clear now. We know what we're doing. So let me just finish this off. La shakva tadhite. This one is also taking upadeshe it adihi pratyayasya in the upadesha. At the beginning of a pratyaya, if you have the letters la, sha, or ku, and ku means ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, and it's not part of a tadhita pratyaya. Tadhita pratyaya is one type of pratyaya. No need to worry about this word right now. Let me just make it so that you don't worry about it. If you have la, sha, and ku means ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, at the beginning of a pratyaya, in the upadesha that Panini gives you, then that thing will also get the it marker. Okay? That's all it means. It's not very complex, but I'll give you examples in the notes. The reason I'm going through these really quickly is so I can tell you what happens with the it sangya. I don't want to wait till next week to tell you to reveal the secret of this it sangya. It's a nice cliffhanger, but I still want to tell you because I'm so excited about it. So we had Adariye to Davaha, here are examples. Shaf pratyayasya, the sha of a pratyaya. If it's at the beginning of the pratyaya, it gets the it sangya. Chu and tu. La shakva tadhite. Okay. So what is the sutra? The final sutra here, after all these sutras are done, is tasya lopaha. Tasya lopaha. Tasya means of that it marker that we just made. Anything that gets that it marker, anything that gets the it marker, lopaha. Lopaha means chop it off, get rid of it, hide it, put it behind the page so you cannot see it anymore. Lopa, it's very similar to this English word that we have, lop, L-O-P, which means to chop something off, which is exactly what happens here. Tasya lopaha. This is that sutra with which we finally wash the dhatu and the pratyaya that we have put all the soap on. The soap is this it sangya. We put the soap on and it connects. It's both hydrophobic and also hydrophilic. So it attaches both to the dhatu and to the tasya lopaha. Okay. Those of you who studied any chemistry. So anything that gets that it marker, let's go back to this page where we have tons of it stuff. All of these things that get the it marker, let me do it with some really bright orange color. All of them get chopped off. And so what you're left with is simply shvid. What you are left with is simply shvi. What you are left with is simply kr. Once you chop off all the it sangya stuff, you're just left with these little clean baby dhatus. Now you've cleaned it up. Everything is gone. Everything is removed. It looks beautiful. Here's some more examples. You get rid of this liter. You get rid of that nya. You get rid of this you get rid of this o and e. And now you have pat, ni, pat, lasj. Okay? So that is what happens with tasya lopaha, is the final sutra that cleans everything off. It says all that stuff that you added, all these it sangya markers everywhere, get rid of them. So all these things which are waving, the flag is waving, hey, I'm it. My new marker is it, my name is it. So this sutra, tasya lopaha, is like a scanner. It goes through all these things. And it looks at it and it says, hey, are you it? And pa says, no, I am not it. Then it goes to says, nope, not here, no it over here. Ta, I don't have any it marker, sorry. And then it goes to lr, and lr says, I'm it, hello. And Tasya Lopaha says, goodbye. Now you are disappeared. You go into a different dimension. And so Pat is remaining. So anyway, this is what we have done so far, this nice fun exercise called It Sanya, your first introduction to sutras and how sutras actually work, what that the operations kind of things that they perform. And slowly as we move through the webinar, we'll see what all these things actually end up with, how we end up with words finally. So, all right. So I think maybe we don't have time for questions today because we're already a few minutes over time. So I don't want to take more of your time. So all of your questions, anything urgent, anything you really want to ask, please bring it to the discussion forum. Don't forget the discussion forum. It's a very important part of our class. It's like a necessary part of our class. So don't think that it's some optional thing outside. It's part of the class. So go to the discussion forum and share over there. You can stop the sharing. Yeah, thank you. Okay, great. So be on the discussion forum. Okay. So I'll answer all of your questions there. So bring them there. Just feel free to ask. Just go ahead and just put them all there. If somebody knows the answer, they can reply to you. Otherwise, I'll reply to you. And don't forget that the whole Dhatu Patha will be added on the Google Drive this week. I mean, today itself, it'll be added. So, okay, let us conclude. Please put the concluding prayers up. Sorry, I took a little bit of extra time today, but I'm glad we finally got to the end of Itsangya. Now that our dhatus are prepared, now that these little babies are cleaned and they're ready to be shown to the world, you still have to do some other things. So we have these little other processes that we do before they're ready to be shown to the world, before we're ready to speak them. So those we will start getting into next time. Okay, so let us conclude. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you next week. Hari Om.